This is a spoiler warning for the Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Oh, and Veep. The Hunger Games Trilogy was one of those rare things that I would say defined a generation. It's probably one of the best examples of what the young adult genre can do in terms of storytelling and showing compelling characters, both in the books and in the movies. It's a very beloved franchise, so creating another entry for it was always going to be a tough task. But having watched this movie and having witnessed how many fans of the Hunger Games and just people in general have embraced it, I think it's safe to say they succeeded, for the most part, and that's good. Not only is this movie just enjoyable and really engaging on its own, it also just feels organic and integral to the original trilogy, as if it was always meant to be there. I mean, it is based on a book by the same author of the original trilogy, so that probably helps. But yeah, unlike other prequels, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes doesn't ever feel like a thing that Suzanne Collins or the movie studio just decided to come up with quickly just to have an additional thing to this really successful franchise that they can sell again, like a cynical product they just spat out to add into the brand. No, it doesn't feel like a weird mutated imitation that's trying to recapture the magic of the originals for the sake of making money. It feels like its own unique thing while still fitting perfectly into the world it belongs to. Thematically, tonally, the movie feels very much a piece of the Hunger Games set. By the way, I haven't read the book, so this video won't have much to say about how well it adapts the book or anything. I did read the original Hunger Games trilogy back in high school, but that's almost 10 years ago now, I bet. Anyway, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. There's corruption, evil governments, people just trying to survive despite all of that. The theme of violence and human suffering becoming a widely consumed form of entertainment by the rich upper class. It's all wonderfully here, I mean not wonderfully, terribly here, mixed well and portrayed in the way that only a Hunger Games movie does. And the way this movie succeeds as a prequel is not only by including the necessary themes from the original story that help inform us of how the world of Panem and President Snow came to be the way they were as we see them in the Hunger Games, but also just by simply giving origins and contexts to things that are necessary. The way to doing a good prequel movie, who would have known, is by simply giving backstories to things that need it. So many prequels fail, weirdly enough, by giving origins and backstories to things that don't need it. Solo is a huge example of this. The Fantastic Beasts movies also confusingly and convolutedly try to involve Newt into the fight between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, even with Captain Marvel showing how Fury lost his eye. Han Solo's last name doesn't need to have an origin, and such an awkward and mundane one too. The title of Newt Scamander's franchise is literally Fantastic Beasts. Why do we have to see Grindelwald and Dumbledore's beef? Oh wait, I mean, is that why? 'Cause it's like beef? Like a cow? And Nick Fury's eye. Exactly what did that contribute to the movie, or to Fury's character? It could be cut, and nothing would change. The way The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes gives backstories and origins to things, they always feel purposeful, and always for the goal of enriching the things that exist in the original trilogy. Everything here feels motivated by a goal or a desire from the creator to enrich the original world, and nothing here ever feels just like a fan-servicey thing for the sake of fan service. And the biggest thing I feel that this movie enriched is Snow's character. He was arguably what you would call the main antagonist and traditional bad guy from the first trilogy, and while it was effective and already a very good character there, especially with Donald Sutherland's performance, which, by the way, groundbreaking. Very limited screen time, but like, he went to work. Snow's whole character is just completely deepened and given so many more layers by this movie. It really is at its heart a character piece for Snow. The things he does in this movie, the scheming, the conniving, his ambitiousness, his ruthlessness, his relentlessness, they all make sense and create a wonderful foundation for the character that he becomes in the original trilogy. When the book was first announced, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I had my doubts about it because I just didn't think it was necessary, and I also didn't think we needed some sort of origin story for President Snow. I thought the story would try to justify his actions by giving him a backstory that would make people see him as more of a victim of the Capitol and more of a product of his Capitol upbringing. I didn't feel like we needed a story that would make us sympathize with him, because he did some horrible things. I was really scared it was going to make him sympathetic. You know how people are when there's an evil character who had bad parents? They're like, oh, he could have been a good person, he just had bad parents. I was afraid the book and this movie would do that for Snow. I was afraid it would make people be like, oh, he could have been a good person, he was just raised in the Capitol. But no, it doesn't do that. In fact, in some ways, I think this movie makes him feel more evil and despicable. If I think about it, the fact that he saw, you know, how evil and corrupt the Capitol system was, and I never felt he wanted to change it. He just always wanted to boost himself up and be a high-ranking member of it. He's a member of a corrupt and evil system, but he never wishes to break the system. He's felt firsthand the evils of that system himself too, but he never thinks that he should change it for everyone. He just feels like he deserves to be at the better end of it. He never wanted to change the Capitol's cruelty, he just wanted to be in charge of it. And the movie never makes you feel like, oh, Snow's just bad and cruel and evil because of his circumstances. No. In fact, it feels like he was given lots of opportunities to be a better person, but he still chose to squander all of those opportunities to be who he was, to have all the power that he had and be this evil, corrupt person. And I think giving him Tigris as a close relative and as a contrast to his character really helps drive home the kind of person he is. Unlike Snow, Tigris sees the cruelty of the games and the wrong ways of the Capitol. And you can even see this in the movie. There are people in the Capitol itself who see the games as cruel. Snow just isn't one of those people. I love what this movie does for his character, I really do. The only things that save Snow are his relationships with his family, Sejanus and Lucy Gray, but he is Snow, so of course he messes all of those up. His redeeming qualities shined with the people that he cared about, and by the end of the film, he kicks all of them out of his life. Sorry. That caught me off guard. I mean, I wrote this, but... It reminds me so much of Selena Meyer's arc in Veep. In Selena's quest to become the president of the United States, she messes up all the remaining good things in her life. Her political values, friends, family, she fucks all those up, leading up to one final sacrifice in the finale that, yeah, secures her victory, but seals her fate. And like Snow, the two of them, they both sacrifice everything that's dear to them, everything that could have saved them. They all sacrifice all of that for the sake of power, for the sake of ambition. And I really like that kind of thing. I love that tragedy of a character. Before we move on, I just want to say it helped me out a lot if you could give this video a like. If you find it interesting so far, please. It helped me out a lot as a small channel. Now let's talk about the games themselves. I'm saving Lucy Gray for last. And you know, the franchise is called The Hunger Games, so it makes sense to talk about The Hunger Games. Yeah, the games. Seeing the games in this early state was undeniably very interesting, and for me, they were the most interesting parts of the film. The first and second parts of the movie are the most engaging, and sadly, it kind of drags by the third, but you know, it's still a great film and it features a great Hunger Games. You really see how messed up and cruel this whole thing is. You just see how inhumane the Capitol treats these people, and that's what makes it so compelling. You're not just watching people kill each other, you're watching these literal children who are victims of a corrupt, abusive system trying their best to simply survive. I mean, they get put on a zoo to be displayed. How messed up is that? And even messed up is the fact that that used to happen in real life, by the way. The games are violent, but the movie uses the violence to the effect of emphasizing how horrible this whole thing is. I mean, every time I saw, you know, a kill in the games, I just like, no, these are kids. What the heck? Why is this happening? You just feel bad for a lot of these tributes forced to fight for entertainment, being told their lives mean nothing. The cruelty of these games. And you know, a lot of people say that they want to see more Hunger Games films focusing on different, like, Hunger Games because they do happen yearly. And I think, yeah, that would be fun. I'd love to see that, but only if that movie gets made with the intention of showing just how cruel and barbaric and horrible the Capitol is for making the Hunger Games. You know what I mean? Like, what makes these Hunger Games just so much more compelling to watch is because of the underlying fact that this is not right. That you feel for these tributes because this is a corrupt thing that this evil government is doing to its children. That's why it works so well, because it's looking at these people facing this giant adversity, this giant challenge of an abusive government and enduring it, you know, surviving it. It's a tragedy to watch, but watching these victims really just go through it and endure through it, it can be very powerful. It can be very powerful. It's like an act of rebellion against this giant evil thing.
Lucy Gray Baird.
And now let's talk about Lucy Gray Baird. I love how even though she couldn't fight, she still stood up against the Capitol in her own way. She puts on a show at the reaping. That felt like a really giant, big middle finger, you know, or like, oh, you want a show? I'll give you a fucking show. It was just a giant declaration of, whatever, you can do whatever you think you can do to me, but you will never break me, you will never change me, you will never take away my spirit. With that song that she was singing, it was so powerful to watch. Lucy's songs are haunting, and they are in their own way as piercing and surgically precise as Katniss's arrows, especially with Rachel Zegler's performance. This movie is full of great performances. Tom Blythe, Viola Davis, of course, and Peter Dinklage, they all hit it out of the park. This is such a great addition to this franchise, and now, watching the trilogy with this, it kind of makes it more special. You get an additional layer now with why Snow hates Katniss so much. It gives a lot more meat to their beef with each other, and you kind of see how Lucy Gray has still haunted the man so many years later, and he deserves it. I had a great time. What about you? What did you think? Please tell me in the comments. I would like to know. As always, please, if you like this video, feel free to leave a like or maybe even a subscribe. That's it. I'm out.